am a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. I am a recovered crack cocaine addict and alcoholic, and my name is Jimmy Monaghan.
Hey, Jimmy!
It's a critical introduction to me because for so long my identity was grounded in what people said about me. My identity was grounded in what I thought about me, which was not very good. My identity was grounded in my addiction because of the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, because the only thing I would ever be, according to everyone that was in my life, was I was going to be a drug addict, incarcerated, or dead. And that was it. And, because of the 12 steps, and because of the 8 principles of celebrate recovery, and because of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I stand here a free and broken man, but I'm okay with my brokenness because I need Christ to heal me and complete me. I started doing drugs and alcohol when I was 7 years old. My babysitters, they get me high on pot and drunk on beer because they thought it was funny how I acted when I was under the influence. I got caught when I was 9. So what happened, my little brother asked my mom why I'd go to jail for smoking funny cigarettes. So what happened is the weed in my house just went from counter height to cabinet height. So what did I do? I got a chair. Right? And drugs and alcohol in my house were kind of the norm. It was our family secret. It was the dirty little secret. It was the way that my parents would anesthetize. It was the way that there was this gathering of community. There was this way of really escaping the pain that was my transgenerational curse of drug addiction, of sexual abuse, and just abandonment issues. So I found identity in my drugs, and now I don't. I find identity in my recovery. I find identity in who the King says I am, not who the world says I am. Because, as a man, I'm supposed to step on the heads of my fellows. I'm supposed to, the world would say, stack my pockets as full of much money as I possibly can, and treat people poorly. And as long as there's food in my fridge and a roof over my family's head, well, then I've done my job as a man. And that message almost killed me as somebody who was clean and sober, who hadn't used for 4 years. So let me get back to my story. I was 7, 8, 9 years, and by the time I was 11 or 12, my dad had already bounced. He'd become a weekend warrior at times, and he was used as a discipline tactic by my mom, saying, "Don't make me call your dad," which further vilified him in my mind. He was somebody who I hated. He was somebody who I loved. He was somebody who hurt me. But he was somebody who I needed in my life, and he wasn't there. So I needed a family, and I found that family in gangs in Denver, Colorado. I felt that they loved me. I felt that they provided for me. They included me. And you know what? I was big. I was violent. I was angry. And I did really good in the streets. I could take my aggression and my anger and my identity out on people on the streets, and I got accolades for it. I got lifted up for it. I got promoted for it, and I made a lot of money doing it. I made more money at 19 years old than I've ever made in my life. To this day. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, you see, because that is not who I was supposed to be. It was something that I had to endure. It's something that I had to go through to get me to where I am now. So I don't regret that. I regret some of the things that I've done, but I don't find shame in it anymore because I know that that was part of the path to getting to me to where I am now. So in this gang life, I discovered crack cocaine for the first time. This was 1987, 1986, 89, I was a dope fiend. But not in the way that most would think. You see, I was a dope fiend because of the money. I smoked crack one time and I went, I will never do that drug again because I loved it so much. You see, it took me to a place where I didn't have to be me. It took me to this place where I felt full and whole. It took me to this place where I thought I was invincible, and I knew that if I kept doing that drug, Jimmy wouldn't live long. I knew that, so I didn't do it. But I sure peddled it, sure sold it. And I got to this place to where I knew I needed to get out of that life. And I asked my mom if I could move home. I was 19 years old, and I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, I feel like my life's in danger. My life is out of control. Can I move home?" And she said, "Sure." And 3 weeks later, she committed suicide, and I found her. So, for the next few decades, for the next at least decade and a half, people would say, "Man, you drink too much. You smoke too much crap. You're crazy, dude." And I'd say, "Have you ever found your mom dead?" They'd say, "No." I said, "Well, then leave me alone." And I use it as a badge. I use it as an excuse to run havoc in people's lives, to continue to slowly kill myself, and to be in this place to where I couldn't know anything but pain. And the pleasure principle is that we will escape pain at all costs. We can't be in pain, so we will do whatever it takes to be in pleasure for just a second, and that's where I was. I knew that using would end up as bad. But I didn't care at that moment because I wanted the pain to stop. And you see, I couldn't kill myself because my mom did that. I knew what it did to the family, so I committed slow spiritual suicide by using crack cocaine and alcohol. Went to this place called Colorado State University. I graduated from there with a bachelor's degree in liberal arts. How I did that is one of the great mysteries of the world. Right? Junkie, drug addict, gangbanger from Denver going to Colorado State University. So I found this place, like Animal House Fraternity is really what it was. And it was the craziest place I'd ever seen. And I was like, these dudes are going to be awesome. Because they could party like I could. They could drink like I could. But I didn't realize that they didn't do it every day. I needed it every day because don't you know who I think I am? When I graduated, I got back to Denver, moved back. There was this waitress who was always our waitress. She'd come up to us and always take our order. So one day I said, hey, when are we going to get married? She said, Monday. And we ended up getting married like a year later. And crack came back into my life and into her life for the first time. Our first year of marriage was crazy. She ran off with a crackhead to get away from the crackhead. Right? He was going to save her life and not do crack. Well, she came back. She had found Alcoholics Anonymous during that time. Now, I'm a member of Celebrate Recovery. If you are a member of any 12-step organization, please keep going. We would like to have you at Celebrate Recovery, and we want you to be part of the fellowship that you're in. We are not in competition with anybody. We do not talk bad about any fellowship because there is a way to recovery for everyone. For me, I had to go name my higher power, and I'll talk about that in a second. So, me and this girl hooked up. She's awesome. She parties like I can. Then she realizes that she's a junkie. I'm a junkie. She bounces, comes back, says she wants to get clean. I said, yeah, me too. I didn't mean it. I've been to rehab 3 times. But I wanted to be with this woman. You know why? Because she was just like a drug to me. Because she made me feel almost okay. That if she loved me, then maybe I wasn't the monster that I thought I was. Maybe I wasn't this disgusting person that I thought I was. Because how could this beautiful woman like this love a guy like me? Maybe deep down inside, I'm okay. She didn't marry me because she loved me. She married me because I protected her. She told me I was the first man that ever fought for her. You see, she came from a family of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, gambling abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. And she saw me as a protector. So we started our life together, right? And it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And 4 years married, I came home one day drunk. Well, I came home drunk every day. But this day I came home drunk. She said she was pregnant. Now, mind you, we're smoking crack every day at this point. She says, I'm pregnant. So I did what every man would do. I said, is it mine? Right? She socked me in the face, which was deserved. But then there was this crazy realization. There was this terror that, oh, you're going to have to stop smoking crack. You know what? She couldn't. She quit drinking, for the most part. There was 1 or 2 benders in there. She couldn't stop smoking crack. We smoked crack every day of her pregnancy. And it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind until she started to show, and then there was a daily reminder that I was killing our child inside of her with crack cocaine. And I tried to escape the hideous 4 horsemen of terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair, but I couldn't ever escape their deadly grips. I remember smoking crack with tears rolling down my face, not wanting to, thinking, how could I possibly do this? I'm going to hell. Or was I already there? Or was I already there? Because I'll tell you what, if heaven on earth is united, so is hell on earth. We get to choose. So I get to this place to where I don't know what to do. She's pregnant. Come home and she's in labor one day. We didn't really know it, you know why? Because we were on a bender. We didn't know it until our water broke. So I rushed her to the hospital after taking a couple more hits. I knew the gig was up. We get to the hospital, they figure out that we're daily users. They took my daughter from us and they said, you have 1 year to get your life together. I was like, okay, 1 year, whatever. I'll give you some time, I'll get my kid back and I'll start smoking crack again because I'm a crackhead. That's what crackheads do. I was scared to death and I went to this place called Sobriety House. It was with 35 stinky homeless dudes. And me, right? I was a stinky homeless dude. She went to this really cool place called New Directions for families. It was for women and children. It was beautiful and hers was beautiful. They marble and mine was with 35 me, they said, dude, you gotta go to 3 12-step meetings a week. And I was like, 3 meetings? That's how many meetings that is? That's a lot of meetings. Right? And this dude said, Arthur, did you smoke crack? I was like, well, all day long. He was like, oh, if you don't go to 3 meetings, you're not going to get your kid back. Oh. So I'm going to go to 3 meetings. I've been to Alcoholics Anonymous before. Back then, my interpretation, I was a bunch of old dudes sitting around smoking cigarettes, drinking coffee. I didn't want to go there. I heard about this place called Cocaine Anonymous, and I was like, well, it's probably a pretty fitting place for me to go because I'm a crackhead. So I went to Cocaine Anonymous, and I started hearing these people talk about freedom. I started to hear these people talking about that they didn't smoke crack when bad things happened, that they didn't get drunk when, there were people there who lost children and they didn't go back out. There were people that didn't use even though it was Tuesday. Right? See, those that are laughing know what I'm talking about. And they're in there on Tuesday. But I wanted some of that. I wanted this freedom that they were talking about. So I did the 12 steps and I went through and I got a sponsor and it was weird, man. I remember when we did the 3rd step prayer, he's like, get on your knees and pray. I was like, dude, you're tripping. You're a 6-time convicted felon, man. I'm not this. Right? But I got on my knees and prayed because I wanted the freedom that he had. And during this program in Cocaine Anonymous, I realized how screwed up I truly was. I realized that without God, my concept of God at that time, I couldn't not smoke crack on a daily basis. So I was in Cocaine Anonymous for about 4 years, and I was in a spiritual desert. You see, there were people that were praying to God of their understanding, and I was trying to latch onto their understanding of God. It didn't work for me. It just didn't work. So I came home one Saturday night, and my wife said, we're going to church. And I was like, you're going to church? So we went to church. Right? And I walked in, and there was a message on spiritual emotional burnout. And I was like, are they reading my mind? This is weird. Looking around, and I come from a Roman Catholic background, and I walked into a charismatic 4-square church. And if you know what that is, that means that they dance and sing. They get down, and I was like, this place is whack. These people are crazy. But you know what? I felt comfortable there. And they had Celebrate Recovery there, so I went to Celebrate Recovery first so I could tell them everything I knew about Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous because I was at service at the world level. I got busted up, man. They were talking about, hey man, you haven't smoked crack in a while, you haven't drank in a while, but when was the last time you character assassinated yourself? I was like, on the way in. A few minutes ago. You see, I hated myself still. I didn't deal with junk. And I was trying to fill that God-sized hole all those years with drugs, alcohol, sex, and booze, and I took away that, and I still had a God-sized hole. So for me, I had to go through the 12 steps of Celebrate Recovery, the 8 principles that are based on the Beatitudes, and I had to name my higher power. Now again, I believe all of you should believe in Jesus. I believe all of you should follow Christ. He's done wonders in my life. If you don't, that's cool. If you don't, that's fine. I would love for you to be able to do that because of the freedom that I have found in that. So when I introduced myself earlier, I introduced myself as a recovered crack cocaine addict. And here's where we're going to get some rub, and that's fine. I'll give you my card. You can email me. We'll make an appointment. Have office hours. It's awesome. I say recovered because the first sentence in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says we are 100 men and women who have recovered. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. It also says in the Roman numerals, it says, strenuous work, one alcoholic with another is vital to permanent recovery. I didn't write that. Bill and Bob wrote that, and the first 100 wrote that. I am recovered from active drug addiction. I still struggle with Jimmy. I still struggle with anger. I still struggle with emotionally eating at times, body image, issues of worth. But I work on that all the time. And I have a Savior and a King who loves me exactly where I'm at, but he loves me too much to leave me there. So I'm a work in progress in those areas. But as far as drug addiction and alcoholism go, I'm recovered from that. Now, if I start smoking crack again, guess what? I'd be a crackhead again. And I tell you, I'm an addict. An active addict. I got long-term recovery, and I'm done with that. If I do today what I did yesterday, what I did the day before that, and the day before that, and the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that, because for me, His work in me is not done until the day he comes back or takes me home. So that means I can get better and better and better. I can be a better husband. I can be a better father. I can be a better man. I can be a better pastor. I can be a better therapist. I can be a better Jimmy. I got eyeballs tattooed on my knees, so I'm reminded to look at you and me through the eyes of God, not through my eyes, because my eyes judge still. So if you find yourself judging, I do keep talking about Jesus. Yep, I do. And I'm going to keep talking about Jesus as long as they let me talk. Let me tell you this though, if you're new, you don't know how to stop using drugs, you don't know how to stop drinking, you don't know how to stop gambling, you don't know how to stop compulsively eating, you don't know how to stop the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, you can't quiet the committee. I hate the committee. Woke me up at 3 a.m. Shut up. Grab out somebody with long-term recovery and ask them how they did it. Jump into this head first. I promise the water's deeper than 2 inches. Because when we're actively using, we dive right in and we realize that the water's 2 inches. 2 inches and it smashes us. Get to this place where you can experience freedom, strength, and hope. Get to this place to where you can come alongside somebody once you've recovered and show them how you recovered. There's a place in the Bible that talks about when you're going through hard times, before you know it, God will bring somebody up next to you so that you can be there for that person as God was there for you. It's called sponsorship. Right? If you're very serious about getting well, then get well. And if you're not, hold on. I didn't believe anything anybody said in the rooms for a long time. First of all, it sounded like Charlie Brown when adults talk. Because I needed to clear my head. I've been using for decades. But when I heard somebody say they had 13 years, I was like, well, they're not a drug addict. If I heard somebody say they had 30 days, I was like, that's impossible. Because when I got 3 days, I went to party because I wasn't an addict. And three's the magic number, right? For all the addicts, are like, yeah, 3 days. Be with somebody and get well. This thing is real. It saves lives. For us, for those of us that follow Christ, we believe that He gives us the solution and salvation. Glory be to God for that. And it's about a quality of life that is worth living. And I'll get you this. A lot of Christians are confused and they tell you that they're not worthy, they're not worthy, they're not worthy. Our King wouldn't have died on the cross if you weren't worthy. He died for you to have a life worth living. In John 10:10 it says, the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy. I have come to give them a life far greater than they ever could have imagined. That life for me used to be far greater than I could imagine. It would be looking at myself shaving in the mirror, because I used to shave like this. Because I couldn't stand who I saw. That life far greater than I could imagine now is that we wouldn't need Celebrate Recovery. We wouldn't need Alcoholics Anonymous. We wouldn't need Cocaine Anonymous, because people can find their identity in who they really are and not who they think they are. If you're serious about this, then let's get on. I know that we're going to have this walk. I don't know where we're walking to, but we're going to walk somewhere. We're going to walk with a purpose. But please, come get well. Get involved in your fellowship. Get involved in the spiritual growth. You're supposed to awaken spiritually. And once you're awake, you're supposed to eat, you're supposed to feed it, you're supposed to grow. Thanks for letting me share.